So you
Sorry.
are a professional now. So have that mindset as you're thinking through this stuff. The Ikigai is just a framework that you're going to apply while you're in school, but this is something you can apply for the rest of your life. So I just want you to get excited that you can be the best version of yourself starting now. The journey to become the best version of yourself is an eternal thing. You're always going to be learning to grow and adapt and excel and level up depending on what stage of life you're in, whether that's singleness, married, starting a family, being in community. So keep those things in mind as you all are kind of looking at what I'll be showing today. So I'm going to share my screen here. Like I said, the goal of today is we're going to be talking about what is called the Ikigai. So fun way I found this. I used to work at College as an academic advisor, and there was there was like a Japanese market right around the corner from College for any of those who are around there to check it out. It's really cool. One of my best friends growing up, it was Japanese, and so I just have an affinity for the culture. So long story short, I ended up going into the store one time and I was just walking around like the gifts area and I saw this book that said Ikigai. I had been an academic advisor for like 2 years at that point, and I just started flipping through it and it was just like a big aha moment. I was like, wow, this would be something great to show students and let them see how they can apply these principles as they're going through school. And at the same time, it helped transform me and the career trajectory I had. So I was as an academic advisor, like I said previously, but I'm currently an account executive, which is basically sort of a upper level sales role. And so I've transitioned into multiple careers that I'll talk about, but it's because I really had this kind of guiding principle as a way to start framing how I saw myself and all the skill sets that I had. So, what is the Ikigai? It's a Japanese concept saying that it's the reason for being, or in this Venn diagram that's over here, it's showing sort of, hey, this is the sweet spot for the concepts that potentially make up who you are and sort of the things that you do in life. And so the way I like to kind of summarize it is it's the lifestyle that you want to live. You know, your ikigai is that sweet spot where ideally there's four concepts that the ikigai kind of talks about as a way for your reason for being. And the four areas are what you love, what the world needs, basically how you serve others, what you're good at, and then what you get paid to do. So the overlapping in this sort of Venn diagram is showing like, hey, these are ways that these four concepts overlap. And then in a perfect world, right, you have a job or a career or a lifestyle where you get paid to do something you're good at, you feel like you're serving others, and all of the things that you love are wrapped into one. And so it's a great concept to start framing because you all are college students, you're young in your adult careers. And the things that you start to fill up in these buckets are subject to change, they're subject to develop, they're so subject to cultivate. And it's good to start quantifying what those things are because ultimately, part of the reason you're going to college is to ultimately find your career. What are you going to ultimately get paid for? But I always encourage students is let's take a look at these other three areas because the more clearly you can define what you love, what the world needs, and what you're good at, the more clearly you can define what you can get paid to do, which is, and this was the pinnacle of my story today. You can do anything to make money. You can get paid to do literally anything. You should feel equipped now and especially at the end of this to jump into any career and know you can be successful because you've identified the other aspects of you and you can kind of shift and mold those things in order to find a way to be successful in any career. There are so many industries in this world. There are so many places you can go into healthcare and you don't have to be a nurse or a doctor in order to be in the healthcare field. There's business, there's psychology, there's so many aspects of what different industries have. And a lot of times, as a student, you just don't know what those things are. And you also don't have, sometimes you don't feel like you're equipped to be curious enough. And so, identifying these three areas gives you the ability to start equipping your curiosity to ultimately figure out what is it that I'm going to get paid to do. So here's a deeper look at the four quadrants of the Ikigai. What you love, ultimately, what are your passions, hobbies, or activities that you like to do? So I'm just going to use myself as an example here. When I found the Ikigai, I immediately was like, all right, what fits this stuff for me? And so I was working at College at the time, and I remember the one thing that I really loved was I loved getting into nature every day. There's like a nature preserve right next to the college. So every day for lunch, I would go outside. I would just go walk around, and I just realized like I loved fresh air. I didn't like sitting in an office. That was something I realized. I loved seeing people grow and develop. I love conversations. And so I just started kind of writing those things down. And then what am I good at? So that kind of started back when I was in college. I started realizing, hey, basic things. I'm good at math. I'm good at dressing up. I love putting on good clothes. I love, or I'm good at, um, problem solving. I'm very strategic. And so I just started filling out what as much stuff as I could think of in those areas, what the world needs. That was one was a little more complex for me. So I like to say it's really how you serve others because the world has a lot of different needs, right? But I would say everyone has a passion for something. Everyone has a heart for the world in some way. For me, that's I really have a passion for helping people just see the best version of themselves. I love to see people elevate in life and discover just their greatness regardless of their circumstance. It's very common that a lot of people in this world um, only see themselves based off of the environments that they come from, and they don't see themselves for truly their gifts. And so I've always had a passion for how can I be in a place where it didn't matter how much money I made, I just wanted to know I could serve people in some way or fashion. And then ultimately, what I got paid to do, this is kind of where my story kicks off, is when I got to college, my first major was my first major was sociology. So right when I got to college, I set my major as sociology. First year freshman, taking some, basic classes. And then I ended up talking to my dad one day, and he was just like, you can't do sociology. Like, it's not a workable degree. You need to get a workable degree. You need to figure out something that's going to get you paid. And that kind of stuck with me. I was like, wow, like maybe I can't do what I'm passionate about because I need to do something that's just going to make me money. And so I immediately put down these other three areas and only started focusing on what I could do to make money. I would acknowledge some of the things I was good at. I was like, hey, I'm good at math. So I'm just going to leverage math. I'm going to go be a finance major. So in between getting from like sociology to finance, I changed my major like six times. It was like sociology, psychology, anthropology, communications. And then somewhere along the lines, I got to finance. So I say all that to say it's okay to be exploratory, um, especially when you're in college and figuring out what your major is. But know that you have a little bit of time, especially if you're early on in your career, or if you're about to graduate, that's totally fine too. So the way my story played out is ultimately I settled in on finance. I didn't start taking any of my finance classes to my junior and senior year. And I realized at that point that I hated finance. I was not a finance guy. But I was so deep in my major, I wasn't going to change at that point. Just pro tip, if you're close to graduating with your degree, just go ahead and graduate. Having your bachelor's degree is more important than the major that you have on your bachelor's degree because truly, in my personal opinion, it's a piece of paper that says you're capable of working in the workforce and people will hire you based off of your skill sets and your abilities more so than just what the majors is. Um, so kind of back to where I was a finance major and I realized I didn't want to be in finance. The options that were kind of in front of me were like being an investment banker that were working crazy hours. I didn't want to sit in a cubicle all day. I just almost was having like an identity crisis because I had put most of my learning and skills into what I could get paid to do rather than really looking at me as a in the totality of who I was. And so it led to me freaking out and saying, I just don't want to do finance at all. I'm just going to figure out another track to go down. That was a great thing that I did because I ended up having more honest conversations with people. And I ended up having a marketing professor who was awesome and sat me down and just said, what do you like to do? Like, what are your skills? Like, he would just have these couple sessions with me where we were starting to identify the stuff I loved that I was good at and the ways I could help others. And ultimately, I discovered like I like talking to people. I'm a persuasive person. I used to love to write. I love to communicate. I love to be in settings where I can speak to multiple people. And so I ended up moving actually into sales for my first career. So I graduated and instead of going finance, I went into sales. So that was my first career. But I didn't have the concepts of the Ikigai when I was going through. Um, my career. And so I was in a job where I was ended up doing wine sales. I lived in Orlando, would sell wine from a winery to like multiple stores like Walmart and Target all across Orlando. So I was driving places every day, which is something that I really liked. I like being mobile. I told myself I didn't want to be in an office. That was something I loved about my job. I got to, move all around. Um, I made good money. The harder I worked, the more money I made. That's kind of like the sales life. I really liked, the flexibility of my schedules. Like as long as I got my job done and I hit my numbers, that was the most important thing. So, and I was good at it. I was good at talking to people. I was good at being persuasive. Um, but what I didn't have at the time were the concepts of the Ikigai, which, and this is a key point here, when you look at the Ikigai, you're looking at it in the framework of a balanced life. So in a perfect world, you find a career or a job or a profession that lets you get paid and accomplish all these other areas as well. What I came to find out was I was getting paid to do what I was doing and I was good at it, but I didn't have anything in my life because I had really just rejected that side of myself that was reflecting what I loved and how I was serving others. I was making good money. I lived in a good area. I could do what I wanted to do at any point. I remember going to the mall one day and buying like a $200 pair of sunglasses just for whatever reason. They weren't even good glasses, they were ugly on me. But I remember feeling more empty after that purchase than before I made the purchase. And I remember calling my mom and being like, I am just not happy with what I'm doing, even though it checks all the boxes of why I went to school. And if me now knew me then, I would have told him like I had this moment where I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to leave this job. Like it's not doing what I needed to do for me. And I wish I could have spoken to myself then and been like, just relax because you're at a point in your life where you're full in what you can get paid to do and you're full in what you're good at, but you're very, very empty in what you love and how you serve others. And not having that clarity in that moment made me think I need to get away from sales. I need to move out of this. So ultimately, I moved back into education. I became a fundraiser for a university, for actually the school I graduated from. Became a fundraiser. That was like a transfer of my skills, what I was good at. It was still kind of sales, but it was fundraising. I had a passion for students. I love my time in college. One of the things that was really shapely in my time when I was in college was I had an academic advisor who was really bad at their job. And I remember sitting with them, and when I had the choice of like, hey, do I go sociology? My mom and dad are telling me to do this finance job or business or something workable, and I want to be here. And they were like, I just remember sitting with him and telling him all this stuff, and he was just like, well, I can't help you with that. You got to choose that for yourself. And I was just like, I wish you would just give me some type of coaching here because, like, that would be really impactful for the decision making I'm making for myself. So, when I got back and was fundraising at the college, I was intentional about helping students, anyone in my network, how I could just support them in navigating the college experience. Didn't have the Ikigai yet, but I felt like I was closer to serving others than I had been when I was just doing sales. So did that for a few years and still kind of felt like something was missing. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't making as much money as I was before. That was impacting me. And but I did feel closer to serving others, doing something I was good at, and ultimately making money for it. Didn't feel like I loved it necessarily. Long story short, a few years of that, and I actually transitioned into academic advising just through networking. So I tell students this all the time, 50% of it's what you know, the other 50% of it is who you know. Just having conversations, being in a space where you can talk to professionals of all different backgrounds. They could be friends, they could be family, anyone who works a job. It's good to just have relationships because you don't know what can spawn from that. I became an academic advisor because I was having conversations with people. Ultimately, the reason I got to college is because I knew people there, and they were like, "Hey, it's a great school. You can get your career. Dallas is a great job market. You can make good money." And I was like, "You know what? Sure, why not? I can't find a job out here. I live in North Carolina right now. I'll move to Dallas. I've never been there before, so moved to Dallas. And when I got into my job, I absolutely loved it. I loved the ability to help others every day. I loved the ability to do what I was good at, which is speaking, encouraging others. Had to learn some new skill sets of what it was to be an academic advisor, but they were paying me and I was getting paid to learn and I was helping people every single day. And I finally got to that point where when I found the Ikigai and I filled out all the sections, I realized I was in my Ikigai at that point. And I was so ecstatic because I was able to quantify what I was feeling internally. And so, big picture, as you all are looking at the Ikigai right now, understand that like there's ways that you can operate in this. You might be in a major and you realize you get into your major in your first job. This isn't my everything. I don't love this. It's not filling all my needs. It will be great for you to have a way to reference back to what your ikigai is because you're probably not too far off. If you're in the job and they hired you, that means you've got the skill sets to do something in it. If you're showing up every day and you feel fulfilled in some way, there's something there. You've got to identify what that looks like for you. When I look back on the different areas of my career, I was operating mostly in my profession. I was good at it and they were paying me for it. As time went on, I started to find a couple areas where my vocation was coming into play. So profession is just like, hey, I've got the skills. It's like, somebody who plays in the NBA. They're super good at it. If they love it or not, it doesn't matter. They're super talented. Whereas a vocation is more like, hey, like I feel like I have an urge to serve people in this, and there's also a way to make money in it. The other area, passion and mission, these are cool because you've heard this saying probably before, like this is my passion project. Passion project is like I'm not getting paid to do this, but it's something that fulfills me. I love to do it and I'm good at it. It could be crocheting, it could be knitting, it could be playing sports, whatever that is. A mission is what you love and also how you're serving others, If you think about the word mission traditionally, it is someone who is in a servant role doing something out of the goodness of their heart. So now you're kind of understanding the different quadrants. This is a little bit bigger of a breakdown of what those little middle gaps are, where you find that you're in three of the quadrants. What you love, what you're good at, what you get paid to do. It's satisfaction, but feeling useless. It's like, hey, I feel fulfilled in so many areas, but there's this empty gap just like in this one place. I don't feel like I'm helping others. So, not going to get too in the weeds here, but I just wanted to quantify these quadrants for you and then let you see when you roll that out into what you're doing for work, how you're going about your career, you will find times that you might be fulfilled in some buckets and empty in others, or they're just all being kind of filled, and you got to figure out the in between. So, kind of how that relates to my story was I was an academic advisor for about 4.5 years. I love what I did. I felt like I was in my ikigai. But the career opportunities in order to take care of my family became a stark reality for me as I got to that point where like I want a family, I want to get married, I want to do these things. And I didn't have the path of advancement to get to the salary that I knew that I needed to be at in order to have a family. So it was I felt torn about that situation because I didn't want to leave advising. And thank goodness I had the Ikigai to reference because I knew my why at that point. My why was like, I want to help people become the best version of themselves. That is the thing that drives me to get up in the morning. Knowing that about myself, I remember my career path. And I was like, you know what? I started in sales. Around that same time, I started up my own business. My buddy called me from college. We ended up starting up a business together. And I was running all of the operations and the sales for it. And I just had a love for helping people figure out and problem solve in their job. And I realized, like, wow, I really was good at sales. I was like very, very good at sales. But I felt like so empty about it. Ultimately, I decided that that was the career I wanted to go back into because it was going to give me the salary that I wanted. It was going to give me the lifestyle that I needed. I wanted to go remote, back to what I love. I love being in nature. I like that I can work remote now. I can be on my computer and be out in nature. I can be in my desk. I can be at a coffee shop. That's just something I enjoy. So I was now taking all of this worldly experience that I had, quantifying it through the Ikigai, and then saying, this is the career I want to go into. Now that I'm in sales again, I feel very much that I'm operating in a profession. I'm good at it. I get paid for it. The other piece of that is I understand my why is like I like to help people be the best versions of themselves. I can speak into that as I'm going into my job every day. However, I don't feel like I love it. I don't love the fact that I sell software. I don't feel like I'm necessarily serving the world to make it a better place when I do this. Sometimes, but not all the time. And so I say all that to say, now that I'm operating in this area, there can be imbalance. So this is something key to pick up because now I'm wise enough to know I don't have to leave this profession in order to be filled. When I left higher education, I was blessed enough to find Hendrick scholarships. And I love the fact that I can help students in this way now. I don't get paid for it, but it is a passion of mine. It is a mission of mine to serve others in this capacity. And I would do this for free all day. And so now I have my what I get paid to do in the salary and the lifestyle I want to live, matching how I'm filling myself up with the things that I care about, the way I love, the way I serve the world. And that's where you get to this point of like an ikigai, the center, the reason for being here can look like you operating in two different patches. You operating on the left side with one thing and then on the right side with another thing. So the goal is here is start taking this concept and applying it to your life where it's okay if you're figuring out what major you're interested in and you just don't feel like it's checking all the boxes for you. Don't just jump ship and go to a different major. Start finding all the ways that you can create balance for yourself. And what that means, big picture, is you're generating the lifestyle you want to live. Determine what that lifestyle is for yourself. You know, for me, having a family was a very important thing. Being able to provide for my family. I came from, a low income family. My mom was the first one in our family to go to college. So she was sort of the trailblazer for my family. But I didn't have this, we weren't bankrolling. I didn't feel like I could just kind of go back home after I graduated. I didn't have that sort of safety net. So there was a fear for me of like, if I don't make certain amount of money, I won't be able to thrive in my life. And that fear, I think, can grip a lot of people who are trying to make a way in life and are worried that if they don't go into this field, or this field, doctor, lawyer, banker, whatever that is, that they ultimately won't be able to thrive in life. And they're only seeing themselves from one quadrant of who they actually are. And so that's what I want to impress upon you all today is that you have so much that is of who you are. There's so many capabilities, so many qualities, characteristics of who you are. Start quantifying those things so that when you start looking at your career and your profession, you can realize I can do pretty much anything. I've been in 6 different careers now, and I'd be confident hopping right back into any one of those because I have my skill sets and I know how to find balance. So I hope that resonated. That was a majority of what I wanted to share with you all today. Um, the next area is how you can apply that to different aspects of your life. So you're in school right now. Here's some key ways that you can start getting into, I call it like you're in perpetual beta. So when technology gets into when someone makes a new technology or whatever, they call the beta stage basically the testing phase. So consider yourselves, especially while you're in school, in a perpetual beta phase. You're always testing yourself and who you are and what you're driven by and what your passions are so that you can continue to refine that process as you grow and develop through college. It gives you the ability to kind of put on your explorer hat, put on your discoverer hat, and just go out and see what the world has to offer. I tell you this, college has the most resources you'll ever have in your entire life. There's never been a place where you can go get health care, health support, psychological support, education, recreational activities, and literally hundreds and thousands of people who might have your same interests. There'll never be a place like that. You get into the working world, it looks far from what you have in terms of college. So be an explorer. Start discovering, hey, I kind of like this thing. What does it look like to just maybe join a club or join a group that does this on a regular basis? What does it look like for me to get involved in my community in this way? So discover what energizes you through your classes and the things that you do. Build your skills in some of the subjects that you think you're good at. Hey, I might be good at math or I might be good at sciences. Start taking those classes. Figure it out. Is this really a strength of mine? I use numbers all day. It runs in the back of everything I do because I'm just so good at it. But it helps to fuel all the professions that I've been able to go into. Start making connections with professors and mentors. This is a great time to say, hey, I think I might like this career. I might like this profession. Is there someone in my network? Is there a professor on campus who used to work in this that I can just learn from, glean what their insights are? Put on that explorer hat. If you can walk into anywhere on a college campus. This is what I like to say to students. Everybody at a university works for you, not the other way around. You don't work for them, they work for you. Why? Because you're paying tuition. So if you're the one who's paying their salary, then they work for you. So you should be able to go to anybody in the campus, no matter the president, whoever, and be like, hey, I'm interested in this. I need help here. I need you to help me. If anything, they should at least be pointing you in the right direction to get help. But no one should just be outright saying no. So kind of take that boldness on. You should have a level of entitlement when it comes to being a college student because you're the one who's funding everyone who works there. So if everybody works for you and you're the CEO, go out there and tell people what to do. You can make that happen. You're a college student, and as long as you're paying tuition, you have a voice as to what you should be receiving in order to get support. Um, Reflect on which subjects make time disappear. So, is it what class is that you just loved and all that kind of stuff? Just start really figuring that stuff out and then bringing it back to the Ikigai and sort of having a place to write all that stuff down. When it comes to work, right? You're all in school because ultimately you're entering into the workforce. So don't forget that. I told you this at the top of the call. You're a student, but you're a young professional. You could be a student at any point in your life. When I was an academic advisor, students, there were people with 50, 60, had grandkids and were like, I want to go get my degree. You can be a student at any point in your life. So you are right now a young professional choosing to go to school. Now that you've made that choice, it's to prepare you to get into the workforce, shape yourself, do something that you haven't done before. So start getting creative because, Julie and I were just talking about this. The job market's tough. AI is a real thing, and it's taking a lot of entry level roles. Um, uh, a lot of entry level roles are also being outsourced to other nations. This is the reality of the job market that you're entering into. And it is very important that you have a sober mind about the working world that you're going into because it is not easy. It is harder now than it has ever been. And I can say that with confidence looking at so many people that I've worked with over the years. Your generation has one of the hardest tasks ahead of it. And you have to be ready to be equipped. My student is in his final year right now, and we're looking for jobs. We're looking, strongly for. He's a smart student, great GPA, did all the right things, and he's still taking the effort to find a role. They're not just being thrown out there anymore. Some of these industries are being eaten alive by AI, and a lot of stuff is getting automated. So you've got to have that moment. I had that moment with my student. I said, "Look, I know this is the field that you were interested in going into." But now we've got to get back to your ikigai and start broadening your perspective. What other things are you good at other than the stuff you did your major in? What other ways do you feel like you can serve others in the world? We need to find some other combinations for you because we just need to get you into a place where you got a job coming out. It might not be your dream job anymore. It might just be the best place we can get you in that has your skills equipped, and then we'll figure out the other pieces as time goes on. That's a real conversation I'm having right now with my student. You're going to be having those real life conversations when you get into the working world. What's going to fit? What pays the bills? What makes sure I have enough income to actually take care of myself? You might be in a place where you are only getting paid for it. You don't care how good you are about it. You don't care if it serves others. You definitely don't love it. You're just making money. Okay, if that's the case, and you know you got to put in those 40 hours somewhere, cool. How are you strengthening the things you are good at? How do you feel like you're serving others? Maybe you just got a whole bunch of passion projects and missions and stuff going on to offset the fact that you might work a job that you just don't love. That's totally fine, but now you're finding balance and you're finding a reality where you can still support yourself even though it's not your dream state. So that's what stuff in the workforce looks like. How are you starting to look for internships? If you're even a first year student on here, be looking for internships. Julie talked about it at the top of the call, and I'm sure she'll say it at the end again. She just sent you a resource that talked about internships that are available in your areas, potentially paid. You need to be jumping on it. Even if you think you have a inkling of something you might be good at, something you could serve others that could make you money, you should be applying because jobs right now, organizations want experience and they don't care that you're a freshman in college. They don't want to see you in your senior year and you don't have any real life practical experience to show. And that's just the reality of the job market right now. So you've got to take that sober mind on that you're in school to gain a tool. School is a tool in order for you to get into the working force. If you haven't equipped that tool to be marketable in the job market, they'll overlook you, and there's another fleet of graduates coming in 1 year. So that's just the reality of the situation. You've got to be strong mentally to understand that that's what you're up against, and finding a way to get jobs and internships that fit into the stuff you feel like you're good at, what things that you love, finding ways to learn, finding ways to network. These are all a part of being in the working world and being a college student. Then the last quadrant here is your lifestyle, right? Like, who are you? Everybody has to go and make an income and make a way for themselves, but that doesn't mean that's who they are. You look back 80 years ago, most people were farmers. I doubt everybody who was farming loved farming, but it was a way to make money. We're in a modern society right now where truly any kind of concept or idea is at your fingertips with the internet, with AI. There's a way for you to start understanding what kind of lifestyle you want to live. Does it include having a family? Does it include traveling the world? Does it include, living in different states? Does it include, you know, maybe just being in the woods? What is it that you kind of see that it just fuels you, it gives you life, right? Like, um, so lifestyle is one where like life is what you make it. The Ikigai is a framework in order to identify what your lifestyle could be. What are your dreams? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Let that fuel the direction you're going. And then ultimately you're kind of piecing together that puzzle of what life looks like from a working perspective in order to match the lifestyle you want to live. That's why I went back into sales. I knew that the more money or effort I put into my job, the more money I make. It is A plus B equals C, and I'm very good at it. That's why I'm here. But it doesn't fill me up every day. So I've got other things that I'm doing to fill me up in those spaces. But my lifestyle is not my job, if that makes sense. My lifestyle is that I get to come home to my wife and we couldn't cook dinner every night. I get to travel and see my friends even in the middle of the week. As long as I got internet, I can work. My lifestyle is me and my wife love to take vacations. I like to play video games. I like to play golf. I play volleyball. These are the things that really like get me out of bed and get me excited about the day. But I'm able to do that lifestyle because I was always looking at where that lifestyle I wanted to have, and then I had my work reflect that and reflect, not even reflect that. My work um, empowers me and grants me access to have the lifestyle that I want to lead. It took me a while to find that job that did that for me, but that's kind of the journey that you all are on, is that you've got a lifestyle in mind. You probably can paint the picture of the lifestyle you want to have. You've got to find a role, a career, a business that bolsters that and gives you access to the lifestyle you want to live. And so I've been talking about things more qualitatively. I want to put some numbers behind what I'm saying. So this is just some data that I was able to pull. In your lifetime, you're going to change your career 5 to 7 times. So it's okay to enter into this exploratory phase where you just know, look, data says I might change my major 5 to 7 times or my career 5 to 7 times anyway. So if I get into a job and I don't love it, that's cool. I'll keep looking. but be wise and strategic. Like, hey, I'm in this role. It's covering A, B, and C for me, but this is how I'm potentially going to weave in my other areas for my Ikigai. There's 33 million small businesses in the US right now. I'll tell you, most kids didn't grow up and say, when I get older, I want to own my own business. They said I want to be this, that, and the other. But I tell you, when life happens and you realize you got some good skill sets, you've got some knowledge, you can start your own business if you wanted to. So don't limit yourself to just a profession. You could potentially be an entrepreneur. You could be equipping yourself with skills and identifying a need in the market. Go and starting a business and being an entrepreneur or having that supplement the things that you feel like you're missing. Maybe you're working a job that you don't love. It's paying you a decent amount of money, but you know you can make money doing this too, and you love it. So now you started up your own business on the side, and what was a side hobby turned into a side business, turned into your full-time business because it took off. So you've got a lot of ways to get to the lifestyle you want to live based off of what you do to get paid. And the 59 million Americans freelance. So many people got side hustles nowadays. It doesn't have to be a full-time business. It could just be a way that you see to make money. This is where your community and your network are so important. People always have a need, and there's someone there to fit the need of expertise and skill. The Hendrick Scholarship is great for me because I've got all this knowledge from being an academic advisor, and I thought it was all going to be lost once I left education. I'm not in education anymore, but I get to serve with all this knowledge that I have, and it's fulfilling. And I see that there are people who have a need for this. I can now go reach out to other scholarship foundations to be like, hey, I'm working with Hendrix. This is what I do for them. Do you need something that's similar? Here's how much I charge. And boom, I've got a business. I got a side hustle going right there, just based off of some skills that I developed from my previous careers. So this is what I'm trying to, like I said at the top of the call, persuade you all on is that there is a version of you that's higher than right now that is going to be continually in this beta version that's growing and developing. And you'll realize when you reflect, utilizing the Ikigai and who you are, that there are so many different ways that you can make money. That one quadrant can be filled and it will continue to be more massive because you'll be continuing to fill out and refine those other areas first and foremost. So, want to leave some time for questions at the end. So, what I did is I'm gonna send this presentation to Julie, and this one area you can take this and print it out, or you can write on it. But it's just a way to start writing out what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, what you get paid to do. Just a way to start quantifying it right now for yourselves. But I also put together something for AI. Y'all got access to AI, I hope. If you're not using AI, you absolutely should be. And you can put this prompt in on the right side. And I basically made this prompt in order for you all to create sort of a chat bot that can keep track of all of your stuff that would be in your Ikigai. So it's going to give you, you put the prompt in, but what it should ideally allow you to do is when you start typing in, hey, I love A, B, C, D. I'm good at A, B, C, and D. I what the world needs is A, B, C, and D, and then this is what I feel like I can do to get paid. It should start spitting out for you like that in sort of a diagram. But then also, I put this prompt in so that if you type in weekly check-in, it should ask you something like a thoughtful question for you to refresh that, maybe add something in that you weren't thinking about before. And then also a refresh my past request where if you type in refresh my past, it should suggest 3 to 5 career paths that you can start looking into. So the goal is here is that we take the Ikigai, the things that you really care about, and then start finding career paths that you might have never known about. Really start being applicable with the information that is you, who you are, and letting it see how it can reflect in the working world. So, like I said, I'll send this prompt over, or you could just take a picture of it now. If you got ChatGPT, you can literally take a screenshot of this and be like, look at the right side, read that prompt, and make this GPT for me. So, highly encourage you all to at least figure out a way to get this stuff added in. But yeah, that's pretty much everything, y'all. So, I'll leave this up on the screen while we're wrapping up. But I'd love to leave the last few minutes for any questions. You don't have to come off mic if you don't want to. You can just type them in the chat, but would love to hear any thoughts. And even if it's tied to just where you're at in your college career, anything. I used to be an academic advisor, so you can pretty much ask anything right now.
While they're typing, I'm gonna give well, first, I love how you filled your gap with Hendrik. In fact, I wondered if you were going to say that because I know how much you loved working at Colin. And then when you explained that gap was there, I'm like, I think he's filling that gap with his time with Hendrik, and you sure are, and we're so lucky to have you. And
Truly.
we have family friends. I'm an empty nester. And my friend who's an empty nester, she was wanting to spend more time with her husband. And they also had kids in college and it's expensive. So she got a side hustle and they DoorDash together. So they spend time in the car together on weekends and he drives and she's the dasher. And it makes them spend 4 hours in the car together and they're making money while they do it. So it's filling different purposes that they have to get their girls through college and also spend more time together as a couple, which I thought was clever. So,
That is. I mean, truly, such a practical way, right? Like door dashing is a real thing, but now you're coupling that with having more quality time with the ones you love and making a little money.
yeah. And you make a lot of money door dashing in Dallas on the weekends. So, you guys have anything you want to put in the chat or ask? Let's see what we got. Nothing? Y'all good? Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, Jordan, I really enjoyed this. If you send me the presentation, I'm going to stop recording here.